Here we are. It's Eric Previn at the Government Affairs Committee meeting Wednesday, May 1st, 2019 at 6 p.m. I'll do a quick roll call. Mr. Carter is an excused absence. Eric Previn here. Barry Johnson.
Here.
Marcia Newman.
Here.
Lisa Kradjian. Nope, not here today. Victoria Shulam.
Here.
Rick Rosner.
Here.
Excellent. And no Patrick Lewis for today. I don't see any members of the public, but we're always, we will accept any kind of input from anyone later if necessary. So, moving on. Approval of the Government Affairs minutes. So I brought last time's agenda, and we can review it. It is, we talked about the Prop K thing, trespass warning, and getting the money back, getting an actual on the George HWB 10 million, and I'm going to make a report on that. So there it is. If anybody has a question, if not, Barry will stick it in the file. That's just the agenda, and I don't know that we voted. If we want a vote count on there, we can add it. Do we need to? I think we voted for all of the stuff we did anonymously.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, you probably can just say it was approved without objection.
Good. Approved without objection.
If no one's objecting,
Yeah. Hearing no objection, it is approved. Okay.
6.
Yes.
Okay.
That was from the last time. Now, today, we're on May 1st. And item 3 is the update by the committee chair. So, the update by the committee chair this evening is very pleased to see the Government Affairs Committee here. Very pleased to announce that there will be another forum tomorrow night, just for those who are participating in some way, either as a participant or a participant. There's a lot of activity right now. We were talking about how the County Board of Supervisors are going to Washington, and City Hall is doing its big budget review as we speak, and I'm going to be trying to get to some of those budget meetings. And
it's Krikorian's big time of the year.
Yeah.
Because he does these every year in May.
He's the chairman of the Budget Committee, and what they have arranged this year is to have one meeting called the budget hearing. It's a special meeting, which causes my eyebrow to pop off of my face, and I have to go get it and put it back on, because it feels like it's a more than one meeting, because there's 38 departments, and it always is called agenda item 1 every single day, and it's only really going to be about 5 or 6 days, because there's kind of a premium on moving quickly through the budget so that we can just get back to work. And I think it's best to be a bit more transparent, but that's what they're doing, and they've so far so good. They had the fire department up today, the LASA group, who I just heard yesterday, and they'll roll them out, and there's an agenda which we can access easily, where you can see what they're up to on the particular days, and this goes on through the next month. So that's my update from the committee chair.
And that's sure not like 10 years ago when they had no money.
Right.
Then they were like looking at it at a microscope, with a microscope. Now they just, we've got the money, it's okay.
Well, the high wide shot on the budget, if we want to talk about it for 1 second before we get to the agenda, it's a $10.6 billion budget this year, up from like $9.8 billion last year. So it jumps up every year somehow.
And 10 years ago it was in the 5.
That's right. And by the way, but you have to be careful, because we may be quoting different numbers. I'm using the real budget, the big budget. The general fund is the one you might be thinking of, which is about 5.
It just seems like 10 years ago, we were in deep trouble, and like even $5 billion was pushing it.
Right. Well, one big issue there today was about the LAFD, where they were talking about pre-recession hiring levels. And both Blumenfield and Krikorian were, and by the way, it's very funny, because all the council members, when the fire department comes down, they start reaching into their grab bag and throwing money, because everybody loves the fire department. It's an easy one to justify. And the fire department, for those who are watchdoggy, are prodigious supporters of they grease them up nice during election time. So it's a love fest. It's perfect thing. I'm not criticizing it, just pointing it out. And they were saying pre-recession hiring levels, and that pre-recession thing is really a big issue, because right now, for the record, we've been enjoying years of uptick, and that's the time to be cautious and conservative, because we're about to be walloped. So there were other examples, like the HCID, which is Housing Community and Development Group. they run all the a lot of housing programs for the city, rent stabilization ordinance, all this stuff, and they were trying to get by because they were running a deficit because HHH, they were billing a lot. They were doing a lot of work for HHH to get it going, but HHH won't they won't pay them yet. So it's the city's underwriting it and running a little deficit. So they were all remembering we have to pay that $2 million that we've been spending. So that's something. But then they were saying, maybe since we're almost done with this 10-year HHH thing, because it's rounding toward the middle now, maybe we can get by without hiring with all these positions. Maybe we can just contract out some of the work. They were
still
looking
involves
at
hiring.
and it's at a higher rate usually when you get a contracted job. But what it does is
they don't have the pension.
There's that
right?
exactly. Well, so you have all these people playing different angles at the budget hearing, and the council members are sort of the ones who are trying to get to the bottom of it. It's interesting. I mean, I would come today. I bumped into Andrew Silver of the Homelessness Committee, as I said, because he was there today. Lhasa was on the agenda. But I don't speak on what's on the agenda because I'm in a bit of a snit with Gregorian. What I do is I like to hear the reports.
Are you going off of Bill Barr's testimony today?
Right. No, but we had
He called the letter snitty.
Yeah.
From Melissa.
Well, I don't know, but I'm not Bill Barr. I will say that. But I will say that
You do a better job.
Well, I don't know. I'm not as the Attorney General, but maybe. Anyway, it's interesting, and I do recommend going to one if you get a chance. I mean, they're kind of weird schedules, like the afternoon on some days or the morning on other days. But if I see something hot and interesting, I'll dial it in. Yeah.
Post it.
Yeah, I'll
for
post
us.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea.
I've been tweeting a little
actually.
bit, but I need to tweet.
Do you think
It's
they're
not
going to
bad.
up neighborhood council funding?
I haven't
next
heard
year?
yet. Well, but they already did. I have the budget. This is the budget. I
But
wrote the budget.
may I?
Yeah. Yes, of course, please.
If they up the council budgets, neighborhood council budgets, there was a surplus of money in the SCNC budget. What would we do with the money if they put more money into the budgets
We
here?
could find stuff to spend it on.
Well, but I'm
It's a good
very.
question.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm very respectful of taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And I look at it. I'm a business owner. I look at if I can save $30, I will.
Excellent.
Okay.
Okay, Victoria, did you have
I wasn't
Oh, I'm
finished,
sorry,
but so let me
keep going,
just
yeah.
finish. What would we do with more money?
Well, theoretically, it would, if it's not used by each of the 96 neighborhood councils, it would go back to the city.
No, because as I litigated with our colleagues last month, they have changed it so that if a neighborhood council has money up to $10,000, they will take a sweep. But the $10,000 they'll leave, so you can roll it over. It used to be that you couldn't roll it over. Now apparently you
So
can.
that this council could build up a little fund.
Well, but you have to. I think that there's an agreement that you want. It's not like we don't want to save up too much money because we, like you were saying, what do we need it for?
And
I
the
think we
next
want
year,
to share it
that
with the
10,000
constituents.
wouldn't be protected. It would be part of your total. And again, you could
You'd have
only
more to
hold
spend.
over 10,000.
Correct, right.
It
So
wouldn't
you
be
don't want to
another
slow
10.
down your spending too much,
Yeah.
but you do want to spend wisely, and I agree with being
Yeah.
frugal. And if you have a comment, sure. This, by the way, we're merging this into the public comment on non-agenda section because I think we're all raising our hands. Yes.
I was just talking about this with some board members, and I said, I think we should be spending money on outreach and doing outreach projects, and I really am opposed to buying benches for wealthy schools that are being supported by every other business in the district. I don't want to buy fixtures for LAUSD schools. I want to put the money into the residents and into outreach for the residents and do a newsletter and do more interesting things for them. And
Oh, thank you
that's
for your
what I
comment.
was talking
That's a nice
about.
idea.
And less to schools.
Well,
We don't.
agree.
Why?
I don't see any reason to pick on the schools, but I agree.
They have a $1 billion
Yeah.
budget.
No, hold on. Well, we're going to debate that. But do you have a comment? Yeah.
Two things. One is, where does the $10 billion come from?
For the city's
part
budget?
of me, if I pay the taxes.
Yeah, I mean, does it come from property taxes?
Yeah.
Does it come from the Fed, some of it?
Right.
Does it,
So state. state.
Yeah.
Business taxes.
Yeah, no, but property taxes, each city, a city does get a portion of it. There's a whole tax increment that, when you pay your tax bill, they collect for a lot of little groups, and then the county collects it, and then.
I guess where's the lion's share?
Okay, so the lion's share, first of all, the lion's share of what we spend, I know you're asking where it comes from, but what we spend is public safety at City Hall. Okay. And not, but cops and fire department. And then it's down from there.
And then
But where does it
second to
come
that
from?
It's probably pensions.
Yeah, well, 20% of the budget goes out the door for the benefits, I think.
Okay.
But which is high, it's a huge amount of money. But the money comes from all sorts of income tax and city tax. There's city taxes. We pay city taxes. You pay city taxes probably. The businesses pay business tax.
Yeah, the businesses licensing fees.
And then that's why while I watch that process, sometimes I become vigilant because I see that we pay taxes programmatically, but people who know that the tax system is a little fungible at the city, companies that go, oh, well, I did, make $1 million, but, I think I made 40% of it in New Orleans. I sold a lot of stuff in New Orleans. And they go, oh, well, let me just take a quick look. Oh, there's your refund. And then you go, but then somebody says, well, can I get a refund? Or, how do you know about that? And it gets a little fishy. And then when you ask, may I see how that went down? They say, oh, no, it's private. Okay. You say, well, private? And then you look at the California law and you go, what about the public? How can that be secret? So it's an interesting question. Okay, so
One more question.
Yep, let's go for it.
Which applies to if we had $10,000 to.
Yeah.
Does Studio City have any kind of master architectural vision or plan? Would be called Studio City 2030 that says.
Studio City plan.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Is there any kind of imagining what development is going to happen and what is wanted and what isn't wanted? Because it happens on a.
There's some group involved with that. Who is it?
Well, there's the
beautification
Cahuenga specific corridor plan
For Ventura
Boulevard,
yeah.
which is a group that has been meeting, and they're comprised of folks in our community. I believe it's Sarkin and Karagian, maybe one other. And up in Encino, they got a few of those similar kind of people who sit on it. And they have money that comes in through the parking a little. I don't know that they spend the money, but they look at the report on the money, and I look at it sometimes. And I think they've done some things successfully, like fix things or
and it
put in a
has
sidewalk.
protected us for almost 30 years from having anything built taller than 30 feet on the south side and 45 feet tall on the north side.
Right,
of
which is
Ventura.
currently under siege, as you know.
But
because
that's why we don't have high rises
That's
like
fantastic.
Encino.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Notable
great.
notable
That's
point
great.
on that, which I'll just
Yeah.
throw out there, was two things. One is the great Zev Yaroslavsky, who was a former county supervisor, currently at the Luskin School at UCLA, came out and said, SB 50, that's the one that is going to say you can put more density in these
Right.
corridors. And he said that's a terrible idea. But the New York Times wrote a big editorial, which I thought was quite interesting.
And to the New York Times, I say, stay out of LA.
No, I understand
You're
your
in
point.
New York,
No, I understand
you
your point. But it's important because
Yeah.
they are in New York, but they're not just looking at LA, and they're not just looking at the Ventura Boulevard specific plan. They're looking at California, and that is a reasonable thing. That I believe, even though I'm happy to jump up and down with the NIMBYs like us all day long, we have to do something, and we're going to have to do something.
We got
I don't want it to do. I hope it doesn't happen next to you.
In the Central
I hope it
Valley.
doesn't happen next to you, but it's going to happen somewhere. So because I believe that, and so nobody likes the conversation, obviously. And the mayor, another little piece of that puzzle, which I think is important, is that the city council voted to tell Wiener to stick
Shove
it in
it.
the bun, and they said. The city council said, no. And they sent it up to the mayor's office. And then the mayor took a look at it and said, actually, let's be a little more cooperative. He didn't sign it.
He did.
No,
No, he didn't.
he didn't. So
Wait,
that's news.
Are you talking about 50?
Garcetti, yeah, he's saying, let's see if we can massage our support and try to be potentially realistic. Now, I live on a hill, so it's not going to affect
he
me.
gets so much of his contributions for his political life from developers.
I'm sure.
Right.
Wow.
They all
And he
do.
wants higher office,
Right.
so he can't
Yeah.
piss off Sacramento.
Right.
Or
So,
his contributors.
but I wish that we had because a plan. It would be like, it shouldn't be haphazard. And
It happens piecemeal, like Harvard
Yeah.
Westlake wants to build a frickin' arch, and then
Right, piecemeal's right, and big projects show up in places that, defy logic, or not just logic, but you can feel the congestion arriving. Like even in parts of North Hollywood, you can see, But then you see the scooters show up, and you go, well, maybe not all of these people will have a car, because they can't afford a car for one thing, But because I've always said, you can't.
Yeah, but
You can't
I'm
live here
not
without a
seeing
car.
anybody by and large on scooters or bicycles to get to and from work. You see them
Yeah.
out for leisure.
I mean, I see people to and
So
from
far.
work on the metro. I mean, you don't ride the metro; you drive the van.
No, but going
Yeah.
downtown, yes.
Yeah, I
yes.
mean,
But I mean around here,
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw them all over the Venice area.
Oh, yeah, because the headquarters are there.
Yeah.
They're called last mile green transportation alternative. So they're meant for people to commute from their apartment to their subway stop.
Right.
Well, and it makes sense for that if we're going in that
Yeah.
direction.
And it's particularly fantastic for college campuses.
yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay.
But they are dangerous. Yeah.
I have that conversation with my husband all the time, and I said, user beware.
Yeah. Right.
and
I
also
mean-
pedestrian. My wife's friend had her knee destroyed by a scooter.
Oh, someone took her out. That's another thing. Yeah, because they're not, technically they're not allowed. I'll just remind people, not allowed on the sidewalks. That's weird, because it feels safer to be on the sidewalk if I'm on a scooter than to be like,
Not
oh,
for
no,
the
I'm on
pedestrian.
Ventura.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to be on Ventura.
Moral
Right.
pedestrians.
I mean, you can just get tipped over by
Yeah.
a car.
Well,
if
it's
you're
one of
on
those things where it's going to have to be like Indonesia, where people are going to have to figure out where you know.
I think in the end it will be a much smaller slice of the story than you think.
Oh, I
But
agree.
still an important slice.
It'll be a slice.
Right. I mean, they're going crazy. There's also a hilarious piece I saw, I believe in the New York paper, about China. And there's a great photograph of where bicycles go to die, but they're not. There's nothing wrong with. There are just so many bicycles, like piled up, because of the. There was a tulip situation over there. They got a little over enthusiastic about the bicycling, but everyone does, because it's not. It looks great when each one of these things is bringing in revenue, and you go, well, we have 10 of them. How much? If we had 30 of them, and then they go, well, if we have 150 of them, I don't see any saturation because they're new, And then all of a sudden it comes down to the level that people want to use them, and there's all these freaking bicycles.
It's like pit bulls. We have to export pit bulls and chihuahuas to other states.
I have one just comment on the media before. This is my public comment, very quickly. I, in my line of work as a watchdog, from time to time as a journalist, I encounter ironic moments, and I had been working with one of the CBS investigations experts when it caught me a little off guard when at City Hall there they were being honored by Herb Wesson. Did you see? It was very touching and very sad. I have to take a moment. That guy Dave Bryant
Yeah.
is retiring. So that was, it was nice, because I got a little confused because there was Goldstein, and they started joking because he's the guy who, he is the one who supposedly chases them around and keeps their feet on the
He's
fire.
not retiring.
No, well, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, it was funny to see that, and ironic, because you're. So we can move on now to the agenda. Unless somebody has anything else, I'll give it a minute because we're not in a rush. Okay. So this county cost recovery, I can tell you what happened. So it's interesting, actually. This is to refresh the memory. Janice Hahn said, let's, bow our heads and also take a day off for the former president when he died. We all got a little upset, and we're like, come on,
Take a day off?
Yeah, a whole full day off.
Why?
And it cost $10 million. They
Everybody
did it.
decided that he was one of the last good presidents.
Right. I think
But even he would have said, you guys, this is a waste of money.
Well, that
Bow
was-
your heads and that's it.
Yeah.
So that was the
Well,
conversation.
at least for cities and counties across the country, maybe Washington D.C., but
Former
nowhere
president,
else.
but no.
Yeah.
So I raised it and said, I think we should know what the actual cost is, and we agreed that, and so we, and I told them that, I published these agendas, and, they can see, and so we spoke, I spoke to an attorney named Sayuj Panicker, Panicker, and Sayuj is a very nice person, man, and, he agreed. He seemed to be agreeing. I mean, I was pointing out some of the things that we discussed, which is that the optics are very bad on trying to charge our little group to know something that you guys should know. And if you don't know, get us close, I said. The Rosner massage, but don't big time the people. That's terrible. And it's very upsetting. And how much was it? And so he said, well, there's been some internal discussions and we're going to try to substantiate that for you, Mr. President. And I said, okay. What else can I say? Do it. But I didn't want to be rude, so I said, okay. So he said, we're working on, they're going to give us the breakdown and the ration. That's what I want to know. How do you get to 10 million? And is it really 10 million or is it more or less? But just show us.
Why
because,
is it 10 million?
And, it is, when you attend a budget
Couldn't we
hearing.
throw that money at the homeless people?
There's so many things you could do with that kind of money.
Or the animal shelters?
Yeah, it's not a good use of funds. It's not a good use of funds. But again, when people die, and things cost money. So I don't know. It was not my choice. I did not make that choice. I would never make that choice.
Who made the choice?
I think Janice Hahn did. I think it was canny and political. And I don't think she did it alone. I think she took the job. She did it with the support of her colleagues, because they have to get that support. And I think what they were trying to do in the epic battle between Trump and his opponents was they were trying to, like Rosner said, kind of emphasize that
Triangulate.
That we like, even the guys we don't like, we like more than you, and in a way,
we're not just partisan. We're going to honor
Right.
the Republicans.
Exactly. I think that was in a nutshell.
At the cost of $10 million.
Well, that's why that all the eyes narrow, and you make the point over and over again, and you're absolutely right that Bush himself
And his wife would have said, "You guys are crazy.
You're crazy, right?
Yeah, they would have said,
Get to
"You're
work. That's not our. We believe in service, and we believe in getting hard.
He would have said, "Devote your day to being more productive."
Right. That's right. So I've enjoyed it. It's like, you read the Haggadah, and here this is the particular obsession as we all wonder, will they ever tell us the truth about this $10 million boondoggle?
But
it is like a gem of boondoglery to be. I will just tell my story, which maybe I told, where I went to pay my tax bill because it was right around then. And I went with my, I like to drop my tax bill, which is big, into the brown thing, so I know it's being taken care of. And I went and I couldn't open the door to the assessor, to the county hall of administration. And then a guy came right behind me and said, "Move, buddy." And he couldn't either. And we were all there with our tax bills, trying to pay the county tax. And we couldn't because they were taking the day off.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's a shanda. It is a shanda. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
All right. So that's my update, but this is good news because Panicker doesn't mess around. Okay, He's going to provide a real report, and it's not going to be from him; it's going to be from them, the people who did the
It's
math.
going to come up again if they decide to take a Jimmy Carter day off.
Exactly. If Carter won.
Oh no, then I'd chuck all over the city.
I know.
Sorry.
Can you imagine? I don't think they were taking too many more days off after our extended conversation on it. Okay, but I will report back, and I will just say one thing because it relates to the Panicker report. Panicker also provided a little insight because I've done a Public Record Act request for some payments to the LA Times because I was wondering about that. And I don't know if I shared with you, I found some big ones. Did I share that? There were some big payments made from the county to the LA Times. And I was like, why would we be making big payments? So I started thinking, maybe they're advertising, the Mark Taper Forum, or maybe they're, something like that. But those are not that big when you look at those costs. They're there. These were big costs. I'll say it, $250,000.
For what?
And then
For what?
and then $96,000.
Wow.
For
And I'm
what?
like, why would the Board of Supervisors
Oh
be
my
writing
God.
checks to the LA Times for so much money.
Couldn't we spend that just on Ventura and Laurel Canyon?
Right?
No, but you know
No,
what?
but why are they getting a refund? It's a refund.
It's a refund?
So I learned,
It's a
Paniker
refund?
brought me the guidance that what these were and are is property tax refunds. So in 4 seconds or less, here's what a property tax refund is, as you probably know. You say, my property is not worth what it was yesterday, so I'm going to go to the Property Tax Appeal Board at the county, which is staffed by a bunch of county crooks, nice people, who you say, and they're people who work in this milieu, described as agents, who bring you in. They'll say to you, and it's not right, but they do it. I'll get you a tax break, and we'll split the.
Oh, they make a deal.
And if you say, well, what can you get me? Maybe $3,000. They go, all right. So I get 15, you get 15. Yeah. And you go, do it. Because then your tax is lower and you don't pay them next year, So, but it's a crooked outfit, but only a few people know about it in the overall number of property owners. But unfortunately, the LA Times is a property owner. And so it's possible, said Paniker, and I'm getting to the bottom of it, don't worry, that they have property.
Not anymore. They moved to El Segundo.
But it's
they may be
it's
getting a
still LA
refund for
County.
different
Okay,
reasons.
okay.
They may be getting a refund for different reasons. But there's two aspects to that. There's the assessed value, which is done by the assessor, who's an elected official who came to one of our forums, Jeffrey Prang. He's a former crook politician from West Hollywood, nice guy, and he's the current assessor. And the way it works is that he has a staff of people who help. And then there's that appeals board. And, it's a very fertile area for potential bad things. As you know, the last assessor was carted off in cuffs, but then released immediately and never faced a trial because it would be too embarrassing for everybody upstairs at the Super
Well, the
Bowl.
LA Times has a new owner.
John Noguez.
And
Yes.
okay,
And he loves property tax value. Patrick Soon Chong. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very influential guy.
Yeah, oh yeah. Very powerful. And he likes basketball.
He bought the last job I had before I got fired is this building on Hollywood Boulevard that semi-collapsed to the tune of $65 million in repairs between the earthquake and the subway drilling.
Oh,
So
gosh.
it's a historic building, so it was restored, but to the point where the cost of the repairs could never be recouped through normal rent practices. But LA Times guy, I believe, bought the building for his wife because she likes theater, and there's the El Capitan Theater in the building, which is just weird. But when you have a couple
Right.
$1 billion, it's like, okay.
It's amazing. Yeah, well, this is the billionaire moment. So anybody have any billionaire anecdotes? This is it.
No, sorry. Anyway.
No, I think I have a couple I'd like to roll out. I saw in the LA Times, no, in the New York Times, that a hedge fund billionaire made $2 billion last year. One guy. So the inequality thing is just quite amazing because, they were saying that 10,000 people could have a job with $150,000.
He doesn't. No one thinks like that. Okay, that's not in a mindset at all.
What do you mean?
If you have money in the billions, if you have assets in the billions, you're not thinking what better use I can have for my money than to please myself.
Well, a couple guys, Gates and Buffett think about it, but only after they're dead.
Yeah, and there's different schemes. I think the others, there's also the scheme of giving your money away where it's not really like they're giving it to a 501c3 because it will save the, I think that's the Zuckerberg Chan program, which everybody has their own program, and there's all this giving pledge, and I frequently get upset because the giving pledge is amazing, and it's a huge trove of help, but let's apply it now. We have needs, right? We have issues with weapons all over the place. How about my brilliant buyback program where you buy up all the guns at good market value?
I know a thing or two about this.
Yeah, okay.
But
Anyway.
But I just want to. Are you finished with your comments?
No, I would like you to comment now.
I think you have a good idea Studio City Plan 2030, long-term vision plan. And I do have to correct myself. Well, last meeting we were talking about Prop K and the Studio City Recreation Center with the construction of that building at Beaman Park.
We're getting there next.
But I was unaware. That's voter money. The voters voted that in to upgrade parks.
Yeah.
Parks and facilities. I voted for that too, and I forgot that it was part of what we voted in. So
We voted in $3 million. All the stuff that's been layered on top, and now I'll give you the update.
Okay.
There's an update, but let's.
So I was thinking, because my thought process at the last meeting was, you're going to cover precious green space with concrete. Even though it's going to be a green building, it's still concrete, which is heat absorbing, blah, blah, blah. So part of the green plan could be a reforestation mandate for Studio City.
Oh, good idea.
And it's called the urban canopy,
Mm-hmm.
to preserve, protect, and grow it
Yeah.
with healthy trees that are native to the area that don't.
Did you attend sustainability last night?
No, I can only do so many meetings.
Yeah, I didn't go either. but it was a jam-packed agenda full of a lot of green stuff. Did you see it?
But we can
Yeah,
but
I
we
saw
can
it.
do that
Impressive.
as a neighborhood council and be very very selfish about what we want, how we want to reforest our community, and maybe we can have conditions for developers that for, I don't know, every square foot of something green you mow down, you have to replace that with an indigenous water conservation plant of X height.
And
Yeah,
look
the
at, I don't
X
know if
height
they're,
is important,
Yeah.
because they'll take out a 50-year-old tree and put in one this
Yeah.
big.
I don't
Yeah.
know if buildings that incorporate plants actually work, or whether they just turn into crap after 10 years, or this forested roof turns to
Yeah, right. I don't know. There are some cities that do that.
Well, maybe not on the roof, but around them, so they can't build on every last inch of their.
But so I
property.
was thinking, so that reforestation, preservation of our particular urban camps called urban canopy.
All right. Let's actually fold this in
Okay.
as we go. You keep talking, but we're going into item 7 because we've already resolved that we're excited about the county cross project. And now
Yeah.
for item 7, it's Prop K project at Studio C. I'll give it an update, but first finish
Okay.
what you were saying about the green canopy. Yeah.
To preserve, protect, and enlarge our green canopy, and to make our parks greener for the kids, so that they're not playing on concrete and grass, but they actually have trees to climb. They see foliage,
Yeah.
okay?
Right.
Of a certain, and it has to be minimum X height, because you can't have a tree this
Right.
big isn't going to do much good.
But let's also remember that we live in an area where it sometimes gets extremely hot and windy, and one of the things that the firemen and women are doing, I should say firemen and women, because there's one. They brought up the sad numbers. They're trying to get more women
Yeah.
in, but it's a hard job. But one of the issues is, they're busy going around trying to cut everything back, which is I realize. But I'm not. I still agree with you that we have to come up with the kinds of stuff that doesn't catch on
It
fire.
has
so
to be
much.
native.
Yeah.
Okay. Native foliage.
Yeah.
A lot of the native foliage is fire retardant. I think eucalyptus. I think.
I think it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I think
It's not
eucalyptus is
native.
oily.
Raging
Is it
fire,
oily?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
creosote. You don't
Yeah,
want
it
that.
is.
So what is
It's
the
not
is,
native
is it the
either.
California oak or something? One of the,
Yeah.
anyway.
There's one copy of the studios with a eucalyptus and then not
Okay.
that one.
Well-
but no, I agree with you.
All right.
Something succulent is very good.
And to make our city parks as friendly and user friendly as possible, they should be filled with people in the parks using it,
Right.
not just homeless people.
Well, but I will say something.
Yeah.
Please, are you going to be at? There's I believe a forum on tomorrow night.
Yeah,
if
I'll
you can get
see
there.
it if I can,
try,
yeah,
it'd be
if
great.
I can.
But they have that's a park where if you go there, which we do, it's great, and you see people, and that's what's so wonderful. It is being used. I don't see too many. I mean, I don't go around checking for homelessness ID, but you don't see the kinds of upsetting because there's so many people and there's
No
so many things
tents.
going on. What's that?
no,
tent.
there was no
Yeah,
salt
there's
there a
no.
couple
There
years
doesn't
ago.
seem to be
North
any.
Hollywood
There's no
Park.
encampment
There
because
was
there's
no salt.
staff there. There's a staff there. Now sometimes staff can't do anything if there's a lot of people hovering around. I mean, there are parks where you have some things. There's a lot of famous examples of that. But I like what you're talking about with the plan. The plan is a great idea, and it's worth saying that the whole city is working on its plan, and there is a part of it but defining our little footprint, postage stamp, Studio City Neighborhood Council. Like, what are the 4 or 5 projects we like? What are the goals that we all share? I think that's a great thing to try to get us to vote on. It's a good excuse to talk about what we can't stand, talk about what we like, and make
And what
plan for the future.
what can everyone agree? What will benefit everyone who lives here, the stakeholders? Okay, and definitely foliage, beautiful parks. I mean, that's a reason to move.
Rick always points out property values will go up. That's good for everybody.
Yeah.
Except for the people who can't afford to buy property around here. But you can't not make it nice. I mean, what are we going to do? Keep it miserable so the property values go down to get a few people on the ground floor?
My general position is that the rest of things are weird now. They're only going to get weirder.
Oh yeah.
And communities like this are going to have to be proactive in figuring out how to preserve themselves as the rest of the world kind of spins out of control.
Oh, I had another idea. This is will never happen, but you never know. You throw these out. There's an area in Santa Monica, which is a historic preservation area, where you cannot, if you buy a house, it's off of Montana, north and south of Montana, to 2nd. Okay, if a house is built up until 1950, and if it's considered of historic value, you cannot really change that house without going before the Historic Planning Committee. So I was thinking, in order to just slow down the process of destroying Ventura Boulevard and some of our just the look of our street vendors, which is, we want to look more like Paris than I don't know.
Pacoima.
Yeah.
Or Northridge even.
Yeah. To
Or
designate.
Encino.
I know.
You like Northridge? With the trees?
No, but I mean, it's very strip mall-y.
Oh.
Yeah, right.
Is what I meant.
Oh, I
Okay.
see.
To see if we could have a Studio City historic district,
Well, let me address that.
and
quick.
and including certain neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Like there's Footbridge Square, calling it.
I have to recuse myself on that one because I live in a. I'm joking, but because we're just talking. But
Yeah.
there is part of Studio City where I live where there are some architecturally significant houses with with a Schindler and some of these other.
Really?
If you go up Wayne Park Drive, yeah, it's cool, and so that's cool. And Studio City has a lot of. But when you talk about the districts, I think that you need to be a little wary of that. If you can avoid doing it, it's cool. If you need to do it, you can do it. But it's kind of like it seems free, but it's not kind of a program. And then you realize, wait, but if we all agreed that this is a nice street, nobody's going to do anything weird. They try to get you to clamor in and sign and pay, and it does cost. So it's kind of like and then the question of do they ever enforce anything, and is it so I don't know. This is I'm kind of piping
They
up
do
what
in those districts.
one critic said about it.
And 10 years ago, when we were getting the RFA that we had for a while, we looked into historic preservation districts for Studio City, and we already didn't have, most of our areas didn't have, you've got to have a certain percentage that haven't been touched. And we already had, in most of our neighborhoods, too many houses that had been torn
touched,
down
right.
and rebuilt.
That's a thing.
I think you had to have 80% or something.
Yeah. They call them HPOZ,
Yeah.
which means
Oh, yeah.
Historic
Yeah.
Preservation
Yeah.
Overlay
Yeah.
District. Wait, zone.
Zone. Right.
There's one in Hollywood, north of Franklin.
Yeah. They're all over there.
They're all
Yeah.
over.
And you
Brentwood
drive
has an area
through
like
it and you
yours.
think
Yeah.
you're like in a time warp
Yeah.
because you'd think you were in the 1920s,
It's
because
slow-
every
it-
house
it-
is like that.
And it
Yeah.
slows development, which is good.
And bad, depending upon which side
But
of that.
Yeah.
at least it slows big
Only
big
bad.
development. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every time I see a vacancy on Ventura Boulevard, I think I just know another Chase Bank is going to go there.
Or nail someone.
I have an update on the banks. The city of Los Angeles, and we'll get to the next thing in 1 second. The city of Los Angeles made a big fuss about Wells Fargo, because Wells Fargo, as you recall, was engaged in some pernicious activities amongst our Angelinos and others. So
Not towards the city, though, per
No,
se, were
well,
they?
no. So
Yeah.
the city did a lot of banking with them since 2008. Fast forwarding through the story, in 2015 or something, they got into big trouble. And then after they got into big trouble, Mike Fuhr said, "This is outrageous." You know, I'm like, "You guys have a lot of business with that horrible bank," but okay. And then they decided, let's change. But that process is now 2019. So they just announced with great fanfare, we're going to do it. We're getting rid of Wells Fargo in one more year because of another technicality. But we'll be done in 1 year out in 20. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So in the queue are the, it's like this also ran pernicious banks. Bank of America,
So it's-
Chase,
they're the
Union
same.
Bank.
Okay,
They're all the
it's
same. I know, that's
It
the
doesn't-
point.
They're
That's my
switching to
point.
Bank of America. I
All three
thought.
of them. There's
Or
like, all three are
Okay.
getting the job.
Okay.
And it's like it was just an entire feeding frenzy where the council members played the role of judges among the beauty pageants that were the banks, the beauty contestants. So it's just everything is appalling. Let's move forward.
Okay.
Okay. So the Prop K. Let me just give you a little update. 'cause
Yeah,
Victoria.
please.
I
Quick.
wanted to go
Yeah.
back to one thing, to
Sure.
that $10 million.
Okay, sure. Before we,
Because that really fries me.
I know.
If the city has that kind of money to throw around,
County.
it's the county,
County.
even better, then it would seem to me we could take half of that could be used to provide, are you ready? Higher education for California foster kids. This is something
That's a
that's
great
so of
idea,
my
yeah.
heart. They get to a point where they graduate high school and they can get grants and some scholarships to get into college, but after they turn 18 they are dropped like a hot rock by the whole state, and they're floundering out there and they need all kinds of support.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
And it just, if you
So
go
they
down,
need educational support to a higher age.
yeah, for either college or tech school or whatever
Yeah.
they need
To get them prepped
get
for independent
up
life.
and going, because they haven't had a lot of that living the way they live. The foster homes aren't all that great, literally, and they're not. The foster program says to you, you have to lock up your knives. My two nieces lived with me. They were in foster care. I have to lock up my knives. How am I going to? They've already
How am I
been
gonna-
cooking and living here, and now I have to lock up the knives. And how the hell am I going to teach them to cook without knives? Who thinks of these
Yeah.
things? But I'm sure there are situations where that is. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff in
You're
foster
right.
care. And if you go down to Edelman Court, it's Edelman, right? It,
Yes.
Can I join?
Yes, please, come on in.
Great.
come on in.
Join us.
Hi,
Hello,
it's,
hi.
How are
it's
you?
again.
Me, first time here.
Ah.
Okay. All right.
It
nice
rips
to see
your
you.
heart out to see thousands of kids. Thousands. Yeah.
No.
It's like,
Painful. It's the court up there. I've been there. I
It's
just
hard.
dial him into where we are. We're in our government affairs committee meeting.
Yep.
Did you come knowing that, or you're just
no,
great?
I've got all the information.
Oh, great, cool.
Yeah, I was
Cool.
specifically interested in the transportation committee.
Oh, good. That's coming up in 2
Next-
minutes.
yeah,
Exactly. Yeah,
7:30.
great. 7:30. Yeah.
Oh, 7:30. I'm a little early.
Yeah, but that's okay because we're getting to
That's
one
fine.
of the issues that's a little dovetaily.
Okay.
Yeah.
so
But,
who are
yes.
you in real life?
All right, so my name's Kirk Bloomgarden. I've been living in Studio City about 12 years up in Wrightwood Estates.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
So yeah, my biggest concern is the cut through.
The waves?
Oh.
my god.
Well, if you want, we have a public comment. Why don't you tell us about that? Because that would be a great opportunity.
Right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can go
sure.
for it. You can also tell the transportation committee. I'm curious
And,
what's
and
the...
it's on our agenda.
Oh, it is on
yeah,
your agenda.
so
Oh,
however you
okay.
want to handle it. Do you want to?
Oh,
should I just
damn,
hold
I'm
off?
never
or-
going to see this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why don't you do this? So, because
Okay.
we've
Yeah,
got
sure. I'll
these.
hold off. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Prop K update. I'll just give you the Prop K update.
Okay.
So I went to what's called the Park Advisory Board meeting at Beaman Park, and it was in one of the little kiddie rooms, and there were about half dozen to I'd say 9 to 10 people, 12 people, and Jessica Fugate of our council district office was there, and the Park Advisory Board chair was there, and a few of the people on the Park Advisory Board were there, and she gave the report, which was, there was a teeny bit of pressure getting the report to come out, but then it came out, and it was that things are being a little bit delayed. But they there's a shortfall on what they want, which is a very expensive, nice triple platinum, not triple platinum.
The green thing.
It's called platinum leads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Lead
Platinum leads,
Yeah.
which is the highest of. It's a very nice building. It would be the nicest environmentally tuned up building in the city, is what they were saying, because I don't think they have one like that. So that was part of what we perceived as a possible sell to do something, because what we're a little bit thinking about was the size of the structure on the field, and so what she said was that there's been a essentially pending a funding gap. There's not a stall, but they said that they're going to try to get things going by sometime in May. They'll have more information. But what the thing that caused everybody to kind of breathe a sigh of relief or frustration was that nothing would happen until the middle of 2021. That the concern about a demolition happening soon is not happening right now. So that was what the report was. And, the park staff would love to have something. Obviously, the people, I think, don't know about it, so are learning about it, and they promised at that meeting to also get, because everybody, the park advisory board and the people, all said, we really would like to see what is really happening, not look at a drawing from a few years ago that did not look finished and looked out of scale and strain. So that's what's going on. It's attention, and all of this is inside the context of Prop K funding, where initially $3 million was earmarked for this upgrade that swelled to about $4 and change million, because $4.5 million is a lot, but not enough. So they borrowed some money through a variety of things and got the budget up to about $10 million. And that's when they got a little green. And then the budget is now over $16 million, and they're about $7 million short. So they're trying to figure out, nobody knows exactly what's happening. And it's a little bit, some of the issues that came up in the last meeting were, do you want, is it green to put a building on a field in a beautiful open space, or is it better to leave it a field and have a smaller building? So those were the issues. Anyone want to throw in something on that, Victoria? You had mentioned.
I was going to say, one of the my thoughts regarding the use of the building was for basketball, right? Regulation level basketball court, and I kind of felt that was limited usage. I mean, how many people can play on that court at one time?
On a regulation high school basketball court?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a large thing, but it's a good question. I mean, like, for example, would you ever be able to, if you weren't playing basketball, would you need such a big... Now, I think that if I recall correctly, the designers were talking about possible partitioning, of some of those things. There are ways to do that. But if you get a regulation high school basketball court, that's what you have primarily in the space, because it's...
What else are you going to do with it? It's not really
so
multi-purpose.
Right.
I would think that if they took up the space with the parking lot and made all the parking underneath the structure, that would mitigate taking up some of the park area. And I did take a little bit for a walk around that park, and it's great. If you haven't been there, it's a great park.
Yeah.
It was crowded. There were people all over. There were
they love
people
it.
walking
And the
to
track.
it.
Yeah.
Little kids, all these little
Yeah.
kids. Oh my gosh! And their little tiny shoes that they forgot to take
And the
home.
sheriff guy, who's the park
And-
advisor, where he walks around that park every day.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
the idea of having a big building out there
Yeah.
is really a bummer.
They could shove it back over the parking lot, and there's some, like maybe a little school behind there. But what I did notice that there are 3 baseball diamonds.
Yeah.
So to say, why should we have a regulation basketball court? Well, you have 3 baseball
Yeah.
diamonds.
Well, they're not baseball. I mean, there are
Or
3
soccer or
corners
something.
or there's
Yeah.
actually 4.
Oh.
If you count the one that's not really tuned up, it just has a teeny little bit. Maybe they took it out of backstop. But I mean, it's a field park. We're not saying no building, but just here's the thing about height. Throwing a basketball court, playing basketball in a building, it has to be a high ceiling. It's going to be double what's there now. You have to imagine that it's like,
Oh, I know.
they say it's not high enough to play basketball because it's not for basketball. But if you go that high, that is really the problem. And even the cool design approach, because everyone was like, this is way too high for this park. Right up front, that's what everybody says.
What if they sunk the building?
Well, now you're thinking. But again,
Elon Musk has his. There's a bunch of new digging technology. Does that make it any cheaper to go under?
No, it's not practical to go under.
It's very expensive.
It's not going to happen.
But maybe with a digger, I don't know.
But I mean, I was thinking, why not a natatorium?
Swimming?
Yeah. I mean, what pools do we have around
We have
here?
pools,
We do?
but I mean, I swim every day at
You
the
got the Y,
YMCA.
which
There's
is
the
roughly a
the,
mile.
the university pool is lovely.
North Hollywood
Yeah,
Park,
North
Van
Hollywood.
Nuys, Sherman Oaks Park.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are
Wait, is that a pool?
These are Olympic-sized pools with.
I was thinking of
The one in Van
Valley
Nuys,
College.
Sherman Oaks
Yeah.
is.
With the LA Valley one?
Yeah, the LA Valley. That's a nice pool,
It's a
right?
little bit
It's
far.
outdoor pool, big outdoor pool. Plus, there's apparently, and it's 24 hours fitness, 24-hour fitness, or there's a gym that I bumped into a guy at the supermarket, and I said, hey, because I used to see him at the swimming pool, and he said, yeah, I left the Y, now I go to the.
So the Y has a
They have a
pool.
pool, yeah.
and-
I think it's Olympic size.
No,
It's
I'm not.
or half size Olympic.
No,
I don't know.
it's a tiny little.
Is
Y
that the
pool.
one on?
Yeah,
Tahunga
Yeah.
near Magnolia.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
We have to check our facts on everything if you think that's
Yeah,
Olympic
okay,
size.
well,
'Cause I mean,
I'm wrong
I
a
tend
lot
to
of the
turn
time.
to Rosner because he's very smart, but
No, but I'm.
that is not an
Yeah,
Olympic
but then I
size
trust
pool.
myself.
Okay,
I end up
good.
being
Right.
wrong a
Yeah.
lot.
No, but Olympic size, and that's a term that gets thrown around. I always throw it around myself. But anyway, so I mean, let's just go full attack on this thing. No, I'm kidding. But I think that this is a project that, if the one thing that I think is worth advocating for is inclusion amongst our people, so that we understand what's happening. Because at the end of the day, we are those taxpayers who voted
Yeah.
for it.
And
All
people
of
that
us.
use it.
Everybody in this room voted for it because we
Yeah.
click, check the. Maybe not you, but maybe I can't tell how old you are or if you were here then.
Yeah,
but still,
I'm
it's
not
good
sure.
mystery.
I'm-
yeah,
I'm-
you don't
I'm
need to get
hearing
into
it for
that.
the first time.
1996 was
No,
the,
I was
no,
not.
you
No,
weren't.
no.
Okay, fair enough. So it was a.
No, the wording was very
Yeah.
like, how could you not vote for us to beautify our parks?
Yeah, right,
That's what they
exactly.
said.
And they
That's
will,
like
but they
saying
shouldn't
it's
ruin
for the
it.
children.
Right. Well, that's what Prop K stands exactly. Prop K for kids. It's all good. It's just that we need to stay tuned in. We need to get the information, share it with the people, and the people can decide. I mean, that would be great. So that's my feeling on this. There's no action at the moment, other than we could give a report at one of the meetings when we have a meeting next, or the next meeting, or maybe get somebody to come talk to the board about the current status, just for a little perky update. Which,
When is the next park advisory meeting?
yeah,
Are
we
those
can
monthly?
possibly. I mean, they're not it's not a high tech meeting. They sit around and but we can post that. That's a good point. I posted the last one. I said I would, and I did. We sent it out to our whole crew, and maybe that's why there were people
Who
there.
was the architect for this?
Okay. Now, every question deserves a response. The Bureau of Engineering takes a big role in Prop K. Bureau of Engineering is under the Public Works umbrella. They are good at what they do, and what they do is create confusion. And then what they did was they took $2 million of this money and spent it on the design, and they didn't hire an outside designer for. Like my ex-wife, for $100,000, I think she would work for you for a year or more, But instead they gave $2 million plus to the Bureau, who has a group of designers who, it was a very eclectic group who did a lot of research. But, it just had the feeling of a public works project where, they're just working on it for years. And, they're producing something, but it's not reflective because, the council district and I think others were not wanting people to be in there discussing it so much. There were 3 VNOCs, those LVNOCs, that were all like spotted out around the calendar in a weird at Thursday at 3:30 with no internet notice, just pinned up on the wall, so nobody knew about this stuff. So that's my point. My point is that when people know about stuff, it's better, and when they ask questions, it's good, and when people are forced to answer, it's great.
Well, then
and
they should come.
They should.
These are the people that should come.
Well, I can get the guy from Bureau of Engineering. Now, he is the
Yeah.
guy who gives the presentation. He's a shapeshifter, but I love it. And I've been interrogating him for a number of years. He's a great guy.
Okay,
I
well,
can
he
see if I
hasn't
can
met
get
us
him.
yet,
Yeah,
We're
I did have
not,
someone volunteer.
We don't get steamrolled.
Thank you for bringing up getting guests, because I don't mind getting guests to come. I think we had a good experience with that mental health guy. He had a great idea.
Yeah, I
but
can't make all these.
That's okay.
people.
Well, we
Really
don't have to
wanted
do them.
talk
We
to
can
that
bring them
guy,
to the
too.
board meetings too. They don't always have to be at a forum. I mean, we can get. But some guy approached me today or yesterday, who is the head of internal services department at the county.
What is
Which is a
that?
big job. It's internal services department. Exactly, it sounds creepy. It's like chaos and control. Internal services. It's like a big purchasing agent. So they make deals with all sorts of things for the county. And the guy knows me because I'm from our Motorola conversations. Because I
Yeah, you
shook
looked
the
into it.
cage a little bit on
A bid.
a bid that was not so competitively bid, and he knew I was right, and so he was taking it to. He was a helpful guy, but recently I cornered him on something else, and we had a conversation, and afterwards he said, "I'd be happy to come talk to your neighborhood council group. I know you have a neighborhood council group." I said, "Yeah, we'd like that." So we should think of because he's a cool guy. He's a very smart guy, a very key part of how governments operate.
Yeah.
And if we do always have questions, because I certainly am interested in this stuff, and we do as this group. This group likes to poke our nose into things. So we'll set that up. His name is not going to pop into my head right now, but I'll get it for you.
I got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
let's talk soon.
Okay. All right.
You anything to say before we do on the speed limits? We were going to talk about the 40 miles an hour on Whitsett and Colfax.
Okay, I can say.
Okay, for that, that's it. Okay, that's the point. And Barry's going to go into it in more detail maybe on his committee on a slightly different angle maybe. I don't know exactly. But here, I came up with this based on driving around Studio City.
Okay.
And they have now slapped up 40 mile an hour signs on Ventura to Moore Park and beyond Moore Park on Colfax, on Whitsett. And so it's basically Whitsett and Colfax
All right.
going back and forth from the library to the Coffee Bean, or going from,
Right.
we all know where we are. It's too fast. It's
Yeah.
too fast.
Why did they do that?
So there's
Why
a
did
state
they-
law.
So they can give tickets.
Pretty much.
Nothing
But they don't
more
have
than
enough
that. It's
cars
a
to
revenue.
enforce the speeding.
Mandated
Yeah.
formula.
But Barry and I have we always discuss this. So the state law requires that if you want to give someone a ticket,
Mm-hmm.
you have to do the traffic study, 85th percentile of them going faster. Then you can write tickets. So if you increase the speed limit, so it's an if-come situation. You don't have to do it. The state law does not require you to change the speed limit. That's the part that we disagree about, because he likes to make it seem like that darn state law, and it is that darn state law
Well,
that makes
if
you
they
do that
don't
stupid thing.
Do it, are they cut
can't
off from
take-
state funds?
No, what they can't do. Here's what happens. If this is my bold,
Oh, they
and
can't
we
write
need to
the
check.
tickets.
We need to check this because I'm making
Well, there
it
was
up.
this
But-
LA Times explained it.
Yeah, no, but they only explain it up to a point also.
Okay.
And this is the point, that the state law requires that if you want to ticket people, which we're taking that as the assumption, right? But that's not the assumption, because here in Studio City, Krikorian and LAPD Valley Traffic may want to ticket people. And I understand that it's a good spot to do it because there's a golf course where you can sort of sit in the shade and get the sonar gun going. If I was picking spots to hang out, that might be where I would want to sit
But
too.
the LAPD does. So 20 years ago, any day I could take a drive around Studio
You'd see
City,
someone.
particularly on Ventura, you would see somebody pulled over getting a ticket. I never see that anymore.
I would agree.
They don't
I would
ticket
agree with
There's
that.
no
anymore.
one to
There-
do
Because-
that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Aren't
The,
enough.
this
I
is
would
covered
agree.
in the Public Safety
Yeah,
Committee, and
sure.
we've had
Because
the-
they're doing other things.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad.
It's good.
They're doing other crimes,
But- okay.
but we have no enforcement on speed limits.
There, I
Right.
think there are
Agreed. I don't
two-
see anybody.
two vehicular cops for traffic.
Right.
traffic
So I think we all agree on
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
We all agree on that.
I have 2 points. One, the fact that the state would step in and tell us how to do anything in our city just makes me really angry. And I think they should step out because they can't even run the state and deal with their own pension issues. And the other is that 40 miles an hour is nowhere near fast enough.
Oh,
I knew she was going to do that.
I didn't expect that.
Well, my son and I took the drive, and he's a young male, and I'm an old male, and I was uncomfortable going 40 miles an hour in those areas. First of all, it is it's the golf and tennis court.
Right.
And as Barry and I discussed, it's a 2-lane road.
Right.
These are 2-lane roads.
Right.
That is the rule that I
Well,
think.
practically, it's only 1.5 lanes.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
But at rush hour, it's 50, 60 miles an hour in either direction. At
This is
rush
from
hour.
Ventura down to
I live
Riverside.
just
Moore
north
Park.
of the Weddington Golf Course,
Mhm.
and I wouldn't even attempt to walk across Whitsett
Oh
during
no,
rush
no,
hour.
no! It's
People
very
are going.
dangerous.
This is why I think we should make a fuss on this because, you know, it's one thing if you have a 4-lane road like Laurel Canyon because, and there, by the way, at Gelson's coming towards the Ventura, it goes to 35. But if you go towards John's the other way from Gelson's, it's 40, and it feels right. Because there you're kind of like, okay, I'm on Laurel Canyon. I got 2 lanes. If someone slows down, I can go one way or the other.
And it's
You
a
know,
little wider
it's
north
wider.
of Riverside. They have
Yeah.
bike lanes.
Yeah. Well, now that's the other concern on Colfax. I was extremely uncomfortable looking at the film my son made as I was driving. As when I was looking as we were coming into basically here, coming down Colfax. It gets narrow. There's cars. There's people. There's dogs, and you've got
And
people
bike lanes.
and bike lanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
bike lane.
bike
I mean,
lane, yes.
I
Very
honestly
stressful.
believe that we can get the DOT to. There are 4 or 5 pieces of plastic or tin or whatever they are that have gone up. That's the only thing that's changed.
There's a
And-
bunch, there's a little square of traffic cones on Ventura turning onto Colfax.
Yeah,
Which is I don't know what that.
It's going to be a
Barry's
raised
working
median.
on it.
Okay, it's just
You know what that is? It's because Colfax does not meet Ventura perpendicularly.
Right.
It's at
Yeah.
an angle to
Right.
Ventura.
True, so they gotta
And
do-
people making a left from Ventura onto Colfax
cut
cut
it
across
to-
the double yellow lines
okay.
because they can't. You know,
Because people can't. do
I
that.
remember my dad without power steering. He could do anything and didn't cut corners ever. Now people have power steering and they cut every corner they possibly
Take out a
can,
cone,
and that's
yeah.
a prime example.
Got it. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. That's interesting.
So I've in the past talked to Jessica about putting a stop light in at Valley Spring and Whitsett at the corner of Weddington, just to give us a fighting chance to get in and
That's
out.
a great idea.
To get out of my house today, I wanted to go west, so I went over to Coldwater, and of course it's rush hour. So somebody actually let me in, and I got over, and then I screeched through traffic onto Bloomfield to go over to Fulton, and then I, at great peril, hammered it on to South Fulton to get down to Ventura so I could go west. You cannot get out onto
So that's an
Coldwater.
evasive maneuver.
I've asked Jessica to put in on Woodbridge to put in a trip plate so that when we're trying to leave, we drive on the plate and it
Yeah.
triggers the stoplight, so we can get onto Coldwater.
That's a good point. You know, because other things than ticketing is the category.
That's
because
good
in
for-
my
It's
opinion,
good for the master plan.
yeah.
Well, you got on these streets. You got 2 populations. You have the locals and the errand runners, and then you have the commuters. And,
That are mostly going over the hill to the other side
and the ways people and
on
everything.
Coldwater and
And
We have ways
Laurel.
going through our neighborhood because
Yeah.
of Moore Park and Coldwater.
Waze has destroyed our neighborhood. I mean,
Oh.
Wrightwood,
Wow.
every morning, it's crazy. It's so dangerous.
I mean, is it like you
And there's-
can't walk your
Well,
dog?
I mean, the example I always use, I walk my dogs every morning, so I've lived up there a dozen years. I'd walk down, I'm on Wrightwood Lane, I start walking down Wrightwood Drive. 5-6 years ago, maybe 3 cars would pass me. Now it's about 40 or 50 at
Yeah.
6 something in the morning.
At 6 in the
And they're
morning.
flying.
Yeah, they
up
want
the
to go. You
hill.
want to go at
Oh,
least
yeah.
45.
It's
Yeah.
25. They run the stoplights. Then there are no speed bumps, so they fly up. They run the stop sign again. It's so dangerous. And
Are we like
I mean,
merging the meetings?
if
Because I
something
have a
has to-
question
everything in
about
the
that.
hills except for Coldwater and Laurel is 25 miles a
Yes,
minute.
and nobody
Yeah.
does it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
People
markings,
speed.
I mean, the speed limit signs are not visible enough. You know, they're not marked well on the roads. But I can only believe speed bumps are.
Well, speed bumps is a good idea, and it's, by the way, I believe it is. Did somebody
Today.
tell us is today Speed Hump Day?
Yeah.
To apply.
So-
Uh,
Last day?
It's the opening.
Okay, thanks,
There's
Chris.
a,
We'll see you.
there's a
How do we-
book of
Rosner's out.
Because
those.
they
Yeah.
put them
See you
in the
tomorrow.
donias. I
Yeah.
live close to the donias.
We have
and
one,
that has cut down, I believe,
Yeah.
certainly the excessive
helps.
speeding.
We have them on Sunshine Terrace, coming into the Carpenter corner.
Okay, yeah, sure, I know where that
There's a
is.
couple of nice bumps.
How do you progress with that?
Well,
If you Google LA City speed humps, I think it'll take you to the application to fill out for where you would like it. But you ought to do it when you get home.
Or now, you can start now on your phone.
well, let's do it. Should we do it right now while we're here? Just fill one out? See how it works, or no?
Well, no,
I mean,
let's,
We don't have
It's
time?
complicated.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
have
just-
time.
it's-
Okay.
And
that
tell them
simple.
the location or the street, Wrightwood from this to this or something.
does he need lots of signatures?
Yes.
No.
No,
Yes.
the first
Yeah, I
I
application.
tried it last year, and I had walked my neighborhood with Jessica and said we need,
Right.
because of the cross traffic, because of cold water over Woodbridge,
Mhm.
we need here, we need stops
Yeah, but you
We
don't need
need-
signatures to do this initial
to put in the
application.
bumps.
Sorry, what,
Yeah.
you said,
Yes.
where do I go to LA? What was it?
Do LA City Speed Humps program and see what if you get the
Yeah.
application.
Okay, all right.
I was
Okay.
told I had to get 10 signatures
I could get that if
for
I
each
needed it.
one.
For each one?
Yeah.
Can you turn that street into a private road?
I have no idea. I mean, that's what I'm here to learn, how to
Right.
combat some of
That's-
these things.
Well,
A lot of money. They would. I don't think the city would let Wrightwood do it.
I also find speed humps, even though they do slow cars down, it's not my favorite. But I do like them.
But what are the alternatives?
So that's what I'm going to talk
Yeah.
about right
Okay,
now.
all right,
There's
go
one
ahead.
that I can think of that I like,
Okay.
but I don't know if it exists for exactly the application that I'm thinking of. But if you go on Tahunga from the YMCA, and you're in the YMCA parking lot, and you make a left, so you're going back down towards town, towards
Towards
more
Riverside?
towards Riverside. Okay, and you drive, and there's a church on the left at the corner, kind of, and there's the big park on the right. So that's what I'm talking about. Now, they had a series of bad experiences there because some people were going too quick. So they because people walk across the street to go to the park. Right. So they put up this thing which is incredibly effective, and it's like a light up. It lights up. You know what I'm talking about, Barry?
Yeah,
Have you seen
yeah,
it? It's really
yeah.
good. Because what it does is it shows the world that we can make something a cautionary zone. That they will not be able to speed through because they won't.
For a
People will
crosswalk
not.
This is
that's
for
not an
Yeah.
actual
for
traffic
pedestrians.
light.
Right, it's a crosswalk that's not an actual traffic light. So that is something that is very interesting. Now, but it sounds a little expensive and elaborate, to be honest. But the other thing that they could do is something like that. Like, I favor this kind of a thing, where one model, which they cost about $10,000, I noticed, the machine that tells you how fast you're going as you pass
Yeah,
by.
the radar.
$10,000 for one of those.
Right.
One of the council
Really?
members.
Wow.
Yeah, one of the council members just ordered 2 for $20,000. So that's what they cost. Keep that in our mind. We could buy one for our neighborhood.
Well, we actually helped buy one
There you
for our police station on Burbank,
Great.
Colfax.
We contributed to that.
I think 4 neighborhood councils
Did
contributed.
it help from what you know? I mean,
Well,
For one?
when they've set it up in an area, the trouble is they'll put it there for a month, and then as soon as they
Yeah.
take it away,
Right.
go
Right.
back.
yeah,
Right, but you could move it around Studio City is
yeah,
one idea.
and
But,
they have.
but the other thing is, and this is an important point, if our goal was really to slow people down and to make people slow down, as opposed to revenue, which is what I believe it is, I believe that unfortunately, because why else would you compromise the safety of people to bring it up to 40 unless there was some reason? And the argument is that we have to follow the logic, but then we can ticket people. Okay, I understand. And then they'll slow down. But
No, they won't.
they won't slow down.
Right.
Because you left the sign up at 40 and everybody goes up to near where the sign is.
Correct.
So instead of that, I just thought that, if the police want to be helpful, which they do, this is not the police who are trying to do this. I don't think, this is just a dumb idea. It's unfortunate, but if people wanted to be helpful, you can still pull someone over and not ticket them if it's a 35.
And it's almost a never-ending thing because now when they do the next survey, the 85th percentile is going to show it should be
Exactly.
45.
It's all
So-
right in the opposite direction of what Vision Zero.
Right.
They presented Vision Zero. I was joking with Barry. The big Vision Zero hoopla was all about the difference between 35 and 40. And I sent Barry this week an example of out in the county near where the rich people live, out in Calabasas, somewhere out there. They were doing the opposite of what we're doing.
Reducing.
Reducing the
That's what
speed
we should be
from
doing,
35 to 30.
Makes
That was amazing,
And they
wasn't it?
didn't care about the ticketing aspect.
Because they don't have the money to sit someone out there
Right.
ticketing.
And
Really,
And they don't want to.
part
What
of
they
our-
want to is not hit
It'd
bicyclists.
be better if our
Right.
mission statement
Right.
was Studio City, the town that no one wants to drive through.
I know, this is unfortunate because
But,
I'm getting
but I have to tell you,
in my snout, and I will never
Krikorian
drop
said
it.
something at the last meeting the board meeting that he attended. I don't know if you guys remember him saying this, but it was like a flashing light in my mind. He said that the car manufacturers are behind this. That they they manufacture. They're really big in LA politics and in California politics.
Who is?
Car
Car
manufacturers.
manufacturers.
Oh, yeah. yeah.
Okay.
And they're behind what aspect you're saying?
Raising the speed limits because they make big engine cars. They want to sell them, and it's no fun driving your big whatever, you
If you're
know,
puttering along.
at 30 miles an hour.
Well-
And you know what? That actually makes more sense.
Well, I mean, it's a point of view. I definitely can see how everybody benefits from a fast car.
I know factually from my interaction with LAPD, which is pretty extensive from Public Safety Committee, and knowing Don Graham and the issues that he's dealing with, they are unable to do anything with ticketing.
Right.
Okay, they can't do anything. They have two people.
Right. Let's move quickly because that was a great point. But I realized we have more on the agenda. I thought we were on one page.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can I just finish on
Yes,
the
absolutely. Sure. I'm sorry.
The other thing I've seen that's changed, and I don't know how they did this, and maybe from your experience. So I live, near the Donias, and they've put in about a year ago maybe. You can't make a right turn between 6 and 10 a.m. Monday through Friday, and then you can't make a left turn when you get to Laurel Canyon because people were making that left,
Right.
Right.
and it was dangerous. How do, if I want to pursue that,
That's a
how
good
do
idea.
I get that going? Because that's what I could see curtailing some of the traffic through the hills where
It's a good
I
idea.
They did that on Coldwater at Hallbrent.
Okay,
Um,
and it's worked. I mean, I've seen there. It's also by Valley Vista and over there.
But
Yeah.
at the bottom of Wrightwood, do you make it so if you're on Vineland, you can't turn right or left to go up?
Yeah, I don't know where
I don't know how
exactly.
you would do that.
but is that
Yeah,
is-
because that's the funnel, isn't it?
That's the
Wrightwood
funnel.
at
They're-
Vineland.
Yeah,
coming
you know
up
what? That is maybe he could bring that up. Stay for in 5 minutes. There's
Okay.
a transportation meeting. Maybe you
All right,
can take
sorry.
comment
Okay.
because that's
Yeah.
no. I think it's a good point. But I want to
right,
just
go ahead.
breeze through this last thing.
Sure.
And we all know what it is, and it's no big deal. But it is a big deal. So you remember the NRA scanning motion where they had the city had
jeez.
Scanning?
they want to scan people for affiliation to the NRA, and we were like, "What? You can't do
What?
that." Contractors.
Oh.
Remember, the city of LA
Mm-hmm.
decided that Mitch O'Farrell decided that people who want to do business with the city of LA have to disclose whether or not they have any connection to the
Oh,
NRA.
it's kinda
People,
fascist, isn't
we
it?
all voted on it. We're like, that's ridiculous. That's
Yeah.
not constitutional. So we wrote a letter
Right.
to them in October of 2018 saying, specifically, don't do it. It's a bad idea. You'll be sued. And the LA Times, I didn't realize this, but apparently in February they said, before Tuesday's vote, O'Farrell said that Mike Fuhr's office said they were on firm legal ground, but groups opposing the new ordinance, including the Studio City Neighborhood Council, which sent a statement to the city council saying that while stakeholders are concerned about gun violence, singling out an organization smacks of politics, makes little sense, and could result in unwanted legal costs. That was in the papers because we
Okay.
did that.
Way to go, LA
Yeah, good,
Times.
good
Okay.
LA Times, good Studio City. Then April 24th, the LA Times had the story that the NRA files a lawsuit against them and, the city, and that the suit was filed in federal court, and, for all these, for people and a guy who is an operator of several LA businesses. So bad. So what do we think? Well, I'm upset by it because we told them. It's an I told you so moment. So we
Yeah,
can make it real
yeah,
quick. Hi,
right.
Joe. Nice to see you. So the I told you so proposal that I came up with, and if we like it, we can see if the board would go for it, is, oh, well, stuff happens. But we warned you. It happened maybe since the announcement that they were being sued was like a political advertisement for some of the people who voted for it. Maybe they should cover the cost of making it go away. out of their own office holder accounts. Because what's going to happen now is, here's how it works. If they're smart, they cancel the ordinance, they put it on the agenda of the city, and they go, reconsidering that, and then it receive and file, they don't act on it. Okay, undo it. So it's no longer law. And then there's going to be the business of the lawsuit. So because if they agree to do that, the fangs of the lawsuit will go away, but there's still going to be a small cost because they had to file a federal lawsuit to make this go away, whoever that is. And I guess it's the NRA. So I don't want to pay the NRA a lot of money. I don't want to pay them any money.
God.
But the taxpayers want to pay them less because you did this, Mr. O'Farrell and company, and you guys should be on the hook for it. And I can write it in such a way that it's professional and not angry, but, you should cover those costs out of your office. Because I'm also outraged by the political kind of like moment that they had, where it's like you're the hero for being sued by a pernicious group. But again, it's
Yes, let's do it.
okay, fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everybody agrees
Yes.
without opposition. It's a good idea to hold them accountable. We'll do it's a follow-up CIS.
Yeah.
And I'll see if I can get Patrick. It won't be. I guess it'll be after the election. So there's a small chance that it's my last act. But if not, the next group can take over.
So when is
No,
the...
because it's our board meeting is day before the election.
I think it's day after.
Okay, and then when is the inauguration?
It's the 15th and the election's the 16th.
Okay. When
Oh.
is the inauguration?
What, new board members? It would be the third. It wouldn't be at the earliest the third Wednesday in June.
Right. By the way, I will take a comment on that before I say we're done, and then you can start your meeting. Does anybody have anything to say about that? Did you following?
If it's to come out of their contracts, I think every one of them that thought this was a great idea, it
Oh
should
my
come out
God.
of their contracts.
Yeah, they're
Not just
committees.
everybody.
Yeah, no, they pay
It's
for it
the
out
law-
of. No, I don't think they should pay for it. Just to be clear, I don't think that they get paid their salary. That's one thing. But this was a political move. They have political action. They're called office holder accounts where
Right,
they
that's
raise
what
money,
they should
and there are
pay.
15 of them. So if
Yeah.
they have to spend 10 grand or 15 grand to pay the lawyers who filed the lawsuit, they each pay $1,000 and it's done. And they'll never agree to this, by the way. But I'm just pointing out that
Oh,
they
it's
should
nice
be
to put it in print,
put it
though.
right on their nose.
So
exactly.
they're going to fight this? They're going to fight this lawsuit?
We don't know, but we're going to tell them what you should nix it by folding, and you should pay the filing fee because we told them we could not have been more accurate.
But the city attorney said that this is on firm legal ground.
Well,
I'd like to know I'd like the citation of that.
well, it's a federal lawsuit now, so that could go on. That could cost a lot of money. And on what grounds would we want to defend the right to do it? Since it's maddening beyond belief. Not just, and we're all over the map.
You
This
start
is
with
not
this,
one.
and then it's
We're not
other
right wingers. I
organizations.
happen to be a
Prove that
left
you're not
winger.
with,
We're all over the map, but it's
who
not the
knows?
right thing to do. What's that?
It's just people have a right to join the NRA.
Of course.
They're
Cops have to. They all do. People who own guns do. It's not, and it's just like the ACLU. You wouldn't want to have to disclose that you were connected to the ACLU. Why should I disclose it? It's like, why? It goes nowhere. Then they say, we're not saying we're going to ban people who are affiliated. Well, then why ask?
Yeah.
It's
It's
just
like
not
the
our
ACLU
system.
or-
It's not our system, right?
No.
I mean, I'm happy to throw mud at the NRA or others, but
well, but if it's rightly so.
correct.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Thank you.